Well, welcome. We have the beginning of a new era. We're going to introduce you to somebody who is going to be a very important role model, very important person in many athletes and students' lives. Why don't we start with an introduction?
Thanks for having me, Al. I'm Steve DeVitto. I'm the new athletic director for the Milford Public Schools, and I'm thrilled to be here.
Steve, the first question is going to come out of most parents' mouths is, what's your philosophy?
Well, pretty simple. I said this the other night when we had our informational session for the 2026 season. There's two things that are important to me. First of all, any athletic director who cares about the kids needs to understand that it's student athletes, right? And they are students first and foremost. Any team I've ever coached, I've said this to them: you need to stay after school, you need to miss a practice because you need to get your work done. You have to do that. That is first and foremost. If you can't do what you need to do during the school day or get your academics where they need to be, athletics is not going to happen, right? To participate in athletics, it's not a right, it is a privilege. And that privilege begins with being an excellent student and giving all the effort that you can in the classroom during the school day. Number two, it's about being a good community member, being a solid community member within our schools, being a leader, right? I want our athletes to be leaders in the schools. Um, we're either going to do this right or we're not going to do it at all. And I think that's an important thing for kids to understand and for parents to understand too, right? There's got to be an unselfishness to being part of a team, and that's got to start with, like I said, being a great student, being a great community member, and being a leader within our community, in our school, and throughout the Milford community. Um, just because you have Milford on your chest, that you're wearing that uniform, um, like I said, it's not a right, it's a privilege, and you need to wear that with honor, provide dignity, be unselfish, and really set the tone for what we want our school community to look like.
The name DeVitto seems like it's tied to Milford High School, Milford school system for many, many years.
hmm
Can you give us an idea?
Well, I'll start back with, a lot of people may know the former Judge DeVito. That was my grandfather's brother. Um, I never got to meet him. He passed before I was born, but I'm told that he was a no-nonsense guy. So maybe I get some of my no-nonsense from my grandfather's brother. But um, my grandfather, Arthur, he had the nickname Blackie DeVito. I never understood that when I was growing up, by the way. So he had the nickname Blackie growing up, and I never got it. I tried to understand where that came from. So apparently there was a radio show called Boston Blackie back in the day. And when he was a custodian in the Milford Public Schools, students would come in because they loved to be around my grandfather, I guess. And they would listen to the radio. They would listen to the show Boston Blackie in the morning and have breakfast with him in the custodian's room. And some of the students nicknamed him Blackie because of that, and it stuck with him all his life. And I never understood it until just before he passed away. But my grandfather was a custodian for over 65 years in the Milford Public Schools. And then both my parents, my father was a fifth grade teacher. He was at the old Pinewood and then Woodland, and then he went to Stacy. He was a fifth grade history teacher. And my mom was a fourth grade teacher for more than 35 years at Woodland Elementary School. So, the name DeVito has been in the Milford Public Schools for a very, very long time.
What brought you to the school system? I would imagine if you had that many family members,
Yeah.
the inclination would be to try something different.
Well, yeah, I I remember when I was younger, I said I'm not going to be a teacher. I want to try something different. I always had this dream of wanting to be a sports broadcaster. Sports is my first love, right? Like I've always been in love with sports. Anything I've ever done, I've compared to sports. So, um, I went to Assumption when I left Milford High School after graduating in
A
2003.
greyhound.
Yes, I was a Greyhound. That's right. Um, Great 4 years at Assumption, and I came back home, um, thinking I was going to be a sports broadcaster, and then I realized quickly, like, I can't pay the bills being a sports broadcaster. I just can't do it. Um, so I was actually going to be a color commentator over the summer for WMRC. It was 1490. And Rich Pierre-Gustavo was the Legion coach. Steve Manguso was the varsity baseball coach at the time. Goose asked me if I would come back and work with the pitchers a little bit in the spring, right at the end of the spring when I came back from school, and I gladly did. And I started to like slowly fall in love with being a coach. And then Rich Pierre-Gustavo said to me, "Hey, what are you doing over the summer? What do you think about, coaching Legion with me in the summer of 2008?" I went through that winter. I went to EMC. I was working in a cube, and I was getting choked out in a cube. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. There's one good thing that came out of that, though. I met my wife when I worked there that summer when I got out of college. We first met. We were great friends, and then it blossomed from there. So thank you, EMC. You got the one good part out of those 7 months I was there was that I met my wife.
How many years?
We married in 2011. So the glorious years that we are continuing right now. We were together for the last 18, going on 19 years.
Newlyweds.
Exactly. But yes, this will be our 15-year anniversary this summer, so we're excited about that. But I ended up coaching with Rich over the summer of 2008. I fell in love with it. Waxy Cullen was the football coach at the high school. He was like, "Hey, what do you think about coming on and coaching?" I was a quarterback in high school. He said, "You want to come back and coach?" I said, "Absolutely." And I remember walking into the high school. Man, this story is amazing. But John Bricado was the principal at the time. He walked by me. He was like, "Hey, I heard you're coaching." I said, Yeah. And he just looked at me. He said, "How many English courses have you taken?" And I was like, "I'm sorry, what?" He said, "How many English courses did you take in college?" And I said, I honestly, John, off the top of my head, I don't know. He goes, "Good, get me your transcript." So I called Assumption. I got my transcript. And a day later, there was an English position that opened. And I became an English teacher for a year, about 3 days before school started. And if it wasn't for Jim McCallum and Amy Allegrezza, I would have had absolutely no idea what I was doing as an English teacher my first year. They helped get me through. And that was the start of my time in the Milford Public Schools. And I've had a lot of positions since then. I've worked through a bunch of different things. And yeah, it's crazy. It's kind of crazy.
You're at the current high school?
Yes.
Because there was Nello Allegrezza was still there.
Well, my journey to be where I am right now is very strange, right? But the interesting part about this, Al, when I was in high school, Nick Sakili was my athletic director. And senior year, I had this interest again in sports. Crazy, I know. And I had asked Coach Zakili at the time, I was like, "Hey, Coach, I'd really like to get an internship to learn more about athletics." And he was like, "Okay, they just, go up to the guidance office." Paul Dufo was the guidance counselor at the time. And I was like, "I'd really like to intern with Mr. Zakili in the athletic department. I'd really like to understand a little bit more about it." And he was like, "Sure thing." So we wrote a little thing up. And senior year, I interned with Nick Zakili when he was the athletic director. So we saw each other this spring, and it's like, "Hey, look. Full circle. Intern, senior year in high school, 23 years later, here I am." So it's a wild road.
Well, I mean, the name Zakili always stood for excellence.
He was. I think the biggest
Both
part.
Zakilis.
Oh, the biggest part about the two of them that I loved, right? I loved Linda's intensity when she coached. Like that was something. I played for Charlie Standen, Steve Manguso, and Rich Pierre-Gustavo. 3 of the most intense coaches you will ever find. And I loved every minute of it because they pushed you to be the best version of yourselves that you can be, right? And as a coach, I wanted to try to instill that in my players, right? I want to push them. There's a personal side to it, right? Like you got to build those relationships. But I think the important piece to this, though, is that like understanding that teaching life lessons is the biggest part of being in athletics, in my opinion, right? Being a coach is not just about the X's and O's and positions on the field. It's teaching life lessons along the way. And, all the coaches that I had growing up, like I said, those individuals who really stand out to me, Charlie, Steve, Rich, like those 3 who I had in high school, they stood out as guys who pushed me. Daga, was my football coach. I mean, you want to talk about guys that were tough. But it's what drove me, right? I wanted to get better because I wanted to perform. I wanted to be the best version of myself to find a way to get into games and help my team win. And that was something that was, you know, cornerstones and building blocks for those guys and those coaches. And the same thing with Coach Sakili. You know, Linda was the same way when she was the coach. You know, she pushed and pushed and pushed, but she built incredible relationships with their players.
But she pushed in a positive way.
Exactly. And that's
Seen
what it's
too
got to
many
be.
stories about coaches that
Mm-hmm.
push in negative or intimidating ways.
Mm-hmm.
Both Sakilis never. I mean, they were intimidating,
They were.
but in good ways.
100%. And that's what you want, right? You want to play for someone who's going to be intense, who's going to push you to be, like I said, the best version of yourself, but also understands there's other things that go to that, right? But you're going to hold your kids accountable. That's an important piece to it, right? Accountability, which is a big word in my vocabulary. If anyone who has played for me understands that. Accountability is huge, right? You need to be accountable for yourself and hold your teammates accountable at the same time.
Now, you're coming off a stint as a disciplinarian for, what, 5 years?
Correct, yes.
Is that going to help, hinder?
Well, I mean, as a coach, in a very strange but different way, right? Like, you kind of have to play that role of disciplinarian, right? You can't be the enabler as a coach. You need to hold a good, solid line. You need to have a good, solid
Yeah,
foundation.
but as assistant principal.
Well, I think so. As a dean of students, right?
A dean of students,
right?
sorry.
But what I tried to instill in anyone that I ever had, right, was build relationships, work with students who are struggling, right? And the same thing holds when you're a coach. You got to work. You got to hold them accountable, but work with those who are struggling, right? You don't just cast them off. And that's what I think is an important piece of coaching and part of what I did as a dean of students. And that role was to try to find ways to help kids, right? Outside the lines. What do I need to do to help this individual, right? I can't just slap them with some type of discipline. It's got to be, what have we done to try and help this individual? Now, are we going to help everyone along the way? No. Is everyone going to become a league all-star in every sport that we have? No, they're not. But are they going to be good community members? Are they going to be good teammates? Are they going to understand those life lessons of like how and when to push our teammates and to push ourselves to go a little bit further? Do I have something left in the tank that I can give for those students who are in school? What can I do differently in order to make my life and my teacher's life, students around me, their lives better and make myself better, right? Or is it just going to be, well, you know, you dropped that fly ball in the outfield, or you traveled in basketball. Now we're just going to sit on the bench and you're done. It's the same thing with when you discipline someone. If you just discipline them and not give them opportunities and try and teach them and help them along the way, you're essentially putting them on the bench and not letting them get back in the game.
Well, my daughter put it in perspective when we were going over the school system, where she said, since she heads up the Best Buddies program,
Mhm.
she said, Dad, my job is to get students to their potential.
Mhm.
But I have to recognize that in special needs, not everybody's potential is the same. So if I can get the kids to their potential, and then just a little bit more,
Mhm.
all I've done is my job.
Well, that's what you want, right? You want to push kids to be the best versions of themselves, right? And sometimes it's hard for teenagers, especially, to understand that there is a little bit left in the tank. There is something more you can do. And maybe not, everyone might not get to that point, right? But what can you do as coaches, as, you know, educational leaders to try to help them and push them and give them, you know, that board to try and help them get there?
Over your dean of students for 5 years,
Mm-hmm.
has it gotten easier or more difficult?
Well, it's a very interesting question. You know, I think in different ways, there have been different challenges along the way, right? I think in any situation, first of all, no situation is the same, right? There is never a situation that is the same, because you never know where that situation has started, right? You don't know where the support systems may or may not be, both in school and or out of school. You know, what life lessons they may have been taught previous to that, right? And that's not my job to be their parent. My job is to try to help them from that movement going forward. And it's the same thing with coaching, right? For our coaches that are going to be at the high school, the middle school. It's not what has happened in the past. It's what can we do from this point moving forward. And that's what I always tried to do as a dean of students, was to try to work with kids in this moment. We're going to live right now in this moment. We're not going to live, 2 years ago or 2 months ago or 2 minutes, like right now. Like, what can we focus on right now? And that's the same thing in the athletic realm, right? In the athletic world, you got to live in the here and now. You got to live in the moment. You can't live in the past. You can't worry about what's coming. Let's live in the here and now, and let's deal with what we got to deal with right now.
But it seems like things have changed. When we were kids, not that we weren't perfect. We never did anything wrong. But if we
Never.
did, the biggest fear you had is, don't call my parents.
Mm-hmm.
Please don't call home. Do
Correct.
what you want with me.
Yep.
I don't care, but don't call my parents.
Well, I also think, to your point, first of all, parent involvement is a very important piece to anything, right? But I also think there needs to be the ability to let students and student athletes grow. If there's an issue potentially with playing time with a coach, it shouldn't be the parent that is automatically reaching out and talking. This is an important life lesson for kids to understand. You need to have that conversation with your coach. Coach, what do I need to do?
To get more minutes.
What do I need to do? In your eyes, what can I do better, right? Not, why is Al playing and Steve isn't? That's not right. Well, okay. In the coach's eyes, because the coach is the one that's writing the lineup card out or writing in the starting lineup or turning in the sheet. Coach is the one that's making that decision. And as a player, you've got every right. Listen, I've had plenty of players who have come to me during my coaching career and said, what do I need to do to play?
Well, that's a profound statement, because when you get into the real world,
Mm-hmm.
your boss is your coach.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to advance, you have to have that discussion to say, boss, coach, what do I have to do to further my career?
Mm-hmm. And that's that accountability piece, right? Because my mother is not going to be contacting the superintendent of schools and ask, why is Stephen not getting X, Y, and Z? Like,
Craig,
It doesn't
why
work
is Steve's office not bigger?
oh man, but yeah, no, it's true, right? Like, when you get older, if you are babied all your life, right, and you don't have, if someone is doing the dirty work for you, when you get older and you get into the real world, you're going to be lost. And I think it's important, especially when kids get into high school, to understand that independence.
Well,
Understand that.
I think in my mind, I've been concerned that I pay you as a resident of Milford
Mhm.
to educate my child, whether it be English, math, science, football, baseball. It's an educational process.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't pay you to raise my child.
Mhm.
And I think too many times now society's changed where they expect the teacher to both be a parent and an educator.
Mhm.
And I don't understand where that changed.
Well, listen, I think parents care, right? And they want to see their kids do well. And that's completely understandable. What parent does not want to see their own child do well, right? Of course, every parent wants to see their child be successful. But we ask our kids to be unselfish, right? We ask our kids to not only worry about themselves. And I think in society today, unfortunately, like, we've lost that a bit as a society, right? Because we only care about what our kids are doing sometimes. We don't care about the greater good of the team. And again, as you get older, it's not just about you. It's about who you're working with, what team you're on, what company you work for, what organization you're working with. Because if your organization folds, your job's gone. It doesn't matter how well you're doing. The organization's done. It's over, right? Same thing goes with a school system, right? Same thing goes with an athletic department, a music department, any department you can think of. If that department folds and you're doing well, it doesn't matter anymore because the department's over and it's gone. So, I think it's a hard thing for a lot of parents to understand. I mean, listen, I am not a perfect parent by any stretch of the imagination, right? But, I try to instill in my child, and sports teams he plays on or friends that he has and groups he's in, like, You need to be a good individual, a good person, a good teammate. Support your teammates. When things aren't going well, support your teammate, because when it's not going well for you, you want someone to be there for you, right? So you can't just expect everyone's going to be there for you all the time when things don't go well, and you're going to play all the time, in a basketball game when you're 0 for 15 from the field, right? Like, so everyone's going to have an off night. It's going to happen. And I think we just need to try to instill in our kids, like, the accountability piece, being a good human being, good person, being accountable, and just continuing to work hard. And when your time comes, you got to be ready. When your number's called, you got to be ready.
Now, you've coached different sports, different ages. What's the difference?
Well, like I said, I think we have a major youth sports issue in America today. Major problem. I'm going to try not to get too much into this because I'll be here for the remainder of our time talking about this. But you notice that there are a lot of town sports now that have started to disappear. And travel sports, AAU, have really taken over the world of youth sports today.
What's AAU?
It's just like travel sports, so it's pay to play, right? A lot of tryouts.
So it's like club sports.
It's exactly what it is. It's club. Yep. No, I think there's a place for it. I really do. I think there is a place for it. But I also think over the course of the last 20, 25 years, the evolution of what club and AAU has become has hurt youth sports, which in turn has hurt parents' perspective and kids' perspective when they are looking to be recruited to go play in college, right? I have talked to a lot of college coaches, whether it was when girls were being recruited to go play softball, boys were being recruited to play baseball. My son plays club hockey out of Marlboro. I've seen kids should not be recruited when they're 11 years old, 12 years old, but
Recruited for what?
play in different level of club sports, juniors, any of those type of things. This is my problem. We have a major issue when it comes to youth sports today, which I think, recently we've noticed that the Commonwealth wants to try to potentially put together some type of commission on youth sports.
Like an MIA?
Something along those lines. I'm not sure that's the answer to it, but what I think needs to happen is a sense of town pride is gone, right? Playing for your town and wanting your team to be successful is gone. When you move on to play in college coaches don't care in a baseball game if you go 4 for 5 and your team loses 9-2, right? And a lot of times in a club setting, and you see this in club baseball or softball or hockey or basketball, right? We're there to be recruited. We're not there necessarily to focus on being good teammates and winning games. And that gets lost in today's society, and we've seen it creep into high school sports. And I've seen time and time again, kids have left the field of teams that we've played in the past, right, that may not have the same look or feeling. And it's been more about me, and not we. And I think, like, being able for us to think like it's about us as a team and not just me as the individual gets lost. And I think a lot of it has to do with that mindset. And it's worrisome. It really and truly is.
That's a shame because when we grew up, we had a football game of Milford against St. Mary's. And that meant something.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially it was Milford against Milford.
Right.
But
it was a sense of pride.
It was a sense of pride. Then I think Shrewsbury became
Mm-hmm.
our rival.
Yep. It's changed over the course of a couple of years, yeah. But again, I don't think it's everywhere, right? I'm not saying that, like, across the board that's what it is. But there's a lot of it, and I've seen it firsthand. And I think trying to find a way to get back to that, it's going to take a lot of work. It's going to take time. It's going to be hard. But if you want to, be successful as you get older, again, it's not about you. People need to understand that. It's not about you as the individual. What do you bring to the team that helps the team become successful? That's what's important.
Now, you're involved with Legion Baseball.
Mm-hmm.
What is it?
What is Legion Baseball?
Yeah.
So,
So many people, you've heard of Legion Baseball,
Mhm.
blue and yellow, and everybody's excited. And
Yep.
and you turn around and say, but we don't have a Legion Hall anymore, do we?
It's at the Italian Vets right now.
Oh, okay.
There's a committee. You know, we don't have the Legion Hall, but there's a committee. So, anyways, you know, it's 14 to 19-year-olds from the area, and it's based on where you live, closest to the base school, which for us is Milford High School. And we play in District 4, which is Worcester County. You know, we're on year 97 right now for Milford Legion Baseball, established in 1929. So it's a long time running. And you want to talk about like a sense of pride and a sense of responsibility to be coach of a team. There's a lot of pride and a lot of responsibility that goes there. You know, I played down there. I grew up going down to Fino Field. Like I know a lot of Milfordians used to do, right? That was your summer plan. What are we doing tonight? Going to the Legion game. Like that's what happened. Joanne Iarusi is one of our board members. And she was my neighbor when I was growing up. And her son, Todd Iarusi, played, who I kind of idolized, which another crazy thought. I idolized Todd Iarusi and Brian Mackey. Brian Mackey happens to be my son's godchild right now and one of my best friends. Crazy how those things kind of end up, right? Where like you idolize someone growing up because they were older than you who played baseball and sport you played, and you wanted to try to emulate how they performed. But anyways, I used to go in the stand with Joanne Iarusi and go up into the press box and do the scoreboard as she was announcing games. And every time I'd be up there, it'd be an orange soda and a Crunch Bar. And we still laugh about that today. But it's people like that. It's Joanne. You know, it's you know, Cindy Stulak, who's the president of our Legion Baseball Club. You know, her dad, Chili Ferbata, was the president of the Legion Baseball Club a long time ago. She's now the president. You know, it's like a family affair. My mom and my mother-in-law are board members for the Legion team. You know, Donnie McGee, his son plays for the team. He's a board member. He's one of our vice presidents. So, like, we have so many board members who have so many ties to Legion Baseball, right? It's a big family. It is. It's a big family. We're incredibly fortunate. Our kids don't pay anything to play. They play for free. They get gear. They get 2 hats. They get 2 shirts. They get a pair of shorts. We give them a camo jersey. They get a jacket. They all of these different things that you know, we pay for their buses for road games. They get meals after games, before games. I know what you're going to ask me. How does that happen, right?
Well, I understand the field and all is taken care of by the town.
Yes.
So as a town, Milford subsidizes the Legion. But
So just for the field.
yes.
Everything else is completely fundraised by the Milford Legion Baseball Club.
How do you fundraise that kind of money?
We have an incredible group of people. You know, Cindy Stulak is our president. Like I said, my mother-in-law, Linda Kelleher. Again, other members on the board, but they are out talking to, you know, community businesses in the area, not just the town of Milford, but, you know, our surrounding areas, because we have kids from surrounding towns as well, Hopedale, Mendon, Upton, Hopkinton. You know, we have Hopedale. It's a surrounding community, right? So we're fortunate. We're incredibly fortunate. And I went through the program, right? So myself and all of the coaches that are on my staff have been through the program. So for us, again, it's a sense of pride, right? It's a sense of wanting to give back for something that meant so much to us. And we want it to mean so much to those coming through right now.
And I call it the Milford Legion, but the Legion team's done well over the years.
Yeah, we've won a lot of baseball games. But I think more importantly than that, we've built an incredible amount of relationships with players that have come through. You know, we have alumni that constantly come back to games. Like I said, alumni who are now coaching, right? All of us are coaching. We've had plenty of alums who, you know, are fresh out of college that want to come back and coach with us before they get into their professions, right? And they're not able to. But we have an incredible group, an incredible amount of alumni. You know, we have our alumni game coming up July 11th. It's a Saturday, I believe, against Framingham. We're going to have an alumni game, and then we're going to play right after them at 7 o'clock at night on a Saturday. So it'll be a great day for, hopefully our alumni to be back down there at Pheno. We want to honor the 1966 state championship team 50 years ago, which is going to be like.
Has it been 50 years?
I know. Well, what is it now? Yeah, it's crazy.
How many Legion teams are there?
In Massachusetts or in District 4?
Well, why don't you take us through
The whole thing? So in District 4, we have 12 teams. So we play a regular season schedule of 22. We play 22 regular season games within our district. Then there's playoffs. And then this year, actually, Milford, we are hosting the state tournament. So the Elite Eight state tournament is going to be held at Pheno this year from July 25th to the 29th. So that'll be an exciting event for the town and for the surrounding area and baseball community.
How do we get picked to host the state tournament?
So we put in a bid. So you have to go in front of the state committee, which I actually happen to be a member of the state committee, so I had to recuse myself from the room after I put in the bid.
You can't say I vote for me.
I can't do that, no. So, you have to go in, you have to explain kind of what your organization's about, what the field looks like, what the amenities in the area is like. We're centrally located right off 495, 15 minutes from 95, 15 minutes from 90, right? We are the center location outside of Worcester, I would say, for, us to be able to host the state
So
tournament.
there's some benefit to the Milford pride.
Yeah.
To keep that Pheno field at top condition.
100%. There is. It's an important. It's really historical. I mean, the games that have been played there. The players who have come through there. It's a special place. It really and truly is a special place. And if you haven't been down to a game over the summer, I'd encourage people. Hopefully, we can catch you down at a game, Al. We run the state tournament, right, the 25th to the 29th. So, concessions are open. We have announcing and music and 50-50 and merchandise and the grills are going. That's every night for us. That's our home game every night. Everything is open. So I tell our guys, it's a state tournament atmosphere every night. That's what it is, right? So for us, it's 5 straight days of running a tournament, but we do it every day when we're at home. So it's like riding a bike, right? Just on a little bit of a bigger scale. But we have everything there. Milford TV comes down for our home games. My FM is there. We have a radio station that's there. We're incredibly fortunate. We are incredibly fortunate.
Now, is there anything that the Legion would like the field to have that they don't? Because I know years ago we went on a layaway plan that for a year, 2 years, 3 years, we put money away for lights.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything else that the Legion
How
would
much
like?
time do we have left on this? I mean, listen. First of all, I'm very thankful for the work that Jim Azam and his crew does. Right. I know listen, he's shorthanded with his parks department, and he does the best that he can. I think there are some improvements that I think anyone at a field would like to see. Right. I would love a lot of different things to be down at that field for our high school team as well. Right. Because our high school varsity baseball team plays down there. But I think Jimmy does a great job. He really and truly does. Our parks department does a great job. Are there things that we could improve on? Sure, right? Like different areas and different things that would love to see. People have asked me over the years, what do you think about turf? What do you think about the turf baseball field? You like turf? And for years, I was always, oh, no, traditional grass field. Like I am such a traditionalist when it comes to these kind of things, right? But I think it's important for the field to be maintained as well as it can, right? It's a crown jewel in our area. It really and truly is. We have comments from people all the time that come down our field. They're like, I could sit there and be like, oh, the field looks terrible tonight. Like this, it doesn't look right. People from other towns come in and they're just like a wow factor. Like, wow, look at this place. And I'm like, really? Tonight? Of all nights? With this? But it for the most part, it's a great place to watch a game, and we do our best with our team to try to put the best product on the field to give a great show to our fans and our parents.
Now, you've coached softball also.
I did, yes.
What's the biggest difference in your mind of coaching girls versus boys?
Oh. You know, when I first was approached by Rich Pierre-Gustavo if I wanted to, when Brian left at the end of the 2013 season, Rich approached me. Pierre-Gustavo was the athletic director at the time, and he was like, hey, I want to, tell me what you think about potentially being the softball coach. I'm like, me? Like, you asking me to like look for someone for you? Do I know anyone in the pipeline, or me coach? He was like, you coach. Are you sure? Like, when I was at Assumption, I graduated. Ralph DeLucia was the head coach at Assumption. He was a Franklin resident. I mean, I knew Ralph a long time. I helped out the team a little bit. The outfielders. I helped Ralph out, but that was the extent of kind of my softball knowledge at the time. So he was like, why don't you think about it? And I went to Brian, and I was like, Brian, Rich is asking me about taking over softball. Like, you think this is a good idea? And I coached with Brian with the Legion team for 4 years. Brian was the head coach. I was Brian's assistant coach. And he was like, I think it's a fantastic idea. He said, I think you'd love it. You'll find a ton of similarities to the game, which obviously I knew the game, right? But not to the extent of being a head varsity softball coach. He's like, you'll find a lot of similarities, help you along the way. I loved it. I loved coaching the girls. They work hard. Tremendous personalities, keyword personality, right? I loved it. And I loved that ability that I had to learn so much from coaching both, female sport and male sport at the highest level in our town, right? The
What did
varsity
you find the
softball.
biggest difference in motivating girls versus boys?
You know what the crazy part was? Motivating girls was not a crazy hard thing to do. They were so motivated, right? If they had a direction of what we were going to do, they knew what the plan was going to be, took it and ran. They really did. They were incredible. I had some incredible leaders over my years when I was the softball coach. Great kids, tremendous families. We were fortunate enough to win a state championship in 2017, which was such a magical year. And I remember, I remember this. There are some things you don't forget as a coach, and this was one of these things that I don't forget. I remember coming in 2014, just after Shannon Smith, Gatorade Player of the Year of 2 straight years. Such an incredible team that they had 2012 and 2013 to go back-to-back. And all the chatter was Milford softball was done. They were going to go into the dumps. We weren't going to be this. We weren't going to be that. And it just fueled my fire, right? When someone wants to doubt you, that just fuels your fire. And as a competitor, that just fueled me. And I used that with the team. And I remember the freshmen that year, Maggie Farrell, Allie Atherton, Caitlin DeCapua, they were freshmen when they came in there. And I told them, I said, before you leave, we're going to do something special. We're going to get this thing back. Leaders that year got us back into the playoffs. The year after that, we were 17-3, made it to the round of 16. The year after that, we were 18-2. Like, we just continued to build. And then by the time it was their senior year, we lost the first game of the year to Taunton, 8-7.
Not that you remember.
No. And I remember saying to them, like, we lost at Taunton. And I remember saying to them, like, we'll be back here. Because that's where the district final and the semifinal was. Like, we'll be back here. We ripped off 26 straight wins and won the state championship. And it was such a culmination. I remember crying tears of happiness with those girls, knowing what we went through for those 4 years to get to that point, right? To get to that pinnacle again. But yeah, it was a wild ride in 2017. But those girls were just, I thoroughly enjoyed coaching. When I was approached about the athletic director position, the hardest part of it, in all honesty, was to give up coaching softball. In the 5 seniors that were there this year, because I had really, they were there for my entire run, right, with them, and it was a very difficult thing for me to give that up. I remember I asked our administration if I could meet with the 5 seniors first so I could talk with them, because it was emotional. I got real emotional, not being able to be their coach, but I knew they were going to be in great hands this year. So, I thoroughly enjoyed my time coaching softball.
Are you getting enough participation from the immigrant families?
I think our participation numbers, I mean, we've talked about this at a league level and a state level. Um, Participation numbers in athletics have dipped significantly, right? Um, and across the board, participation in athletics in the state has dropped. And, I think in today's world that we live in, right, like kids have so many different things that they can do, right? When I got home from school when I was younger, I didn't have, all these video game consoles
Right.
or phones or when you get home from school, it's either get on your bike and
You grab a glove, go out to the park, and see if you can get enough kids to have a game.
that was it. That's what you did, right? And I think there's so much more today. Participation across the board has dropped. We got to try to find a way to get that back. We got to try to find a way to motivate our kids in the community, no matter who you are, to get involved in activities, athletics at the school because it's going to, in a very strange way, it helps keeps you out of trouble, right? It keeps you occupied. It gives you motivation. It's great life lessons like we've talked about. So we got to find ways to change that.
Well, I know when I was coaching soccer, I pulled the parent aside because the father would come. The mother was at every game, but the father would come once every 3-4 games. And there was something special in, I won't mention the girl's name, but in her eyes. She played at a level that she normally didn't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I realized after coaching her for 5 years, the father was at the game.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to him and I said, you must be very wealthy. And he said, what do you mean? I said, your daughter has a good chance of getting a scholarship. That could be $100,000. Back then it was $25,000 a year for college.
A little different now.
When you show up, she plays at that level that she could earn it. When you don't, not always. So I must be congratulating you on affording to give up $100,000. He never missed a game after that.
See, motivation, right? There's the motivation right there. Like, how do you help your kids? And if that means you got to be there to show up, it's something we got to try to work on.
And especially now with soccer picking up as strong as it is.
Mm-hmm.
Is it just my impression, or is soccer really picked up in Milford?
Well, yeah, I mean, listen, our boys soccer team has been outstanding, right? When Brian Edwards was the coach, when that upset that they had over Nauset that was a national thing in high school sports, right? That was a nationally ranked top 10 team that they knocked off when Brian was the coach in the districts. Antonio Pinto is our coach right now with Mike DeSilva. They do a tremendous job. They're outstanding leaders. They're great coaches. They motivate our kids, and our boys soccer program has flourished because of that. Girls soccer, while it may not have had the same type of win-loss success that boys have had recently, last year they had a great run. They made it to the playoffs. They got into the playoffs. They won a game, and they're on the upswing. So, yeah, I do think our soccer programs are two of our stronger programs, and I hope that'll continue.
How do you get the parents to understand how important sports are, especially the girls?
Well, I think to understand how important sports are is one thing, right? To understand what the importance of sports and what it actually means is something that's totally different, right? The ability that sports has to make a lasting impact on an individual, people don't see it in the moment, right? You might see it like years down the road. And what effect participating in, interscholastic athletics could have on an individual will pay dividends for years and years and years, right? Again, life lessons. Understanding that, right? This is about life lessons and trying to motivate kids to be the best versions of themselves. You're never going to remember, well, maybe you won't. Maybe you will. You're not going to remember, a game on a Thursday, when you go 0 for 4 in a game and, or you win a game 13-1, right? But you're going to remember that lesson that the coaches taught. You're going to remember your teammates. You're going to remember those times that, like, when things weren't going well, what did I do to motivate myself to become a better individual? And that's what athletics can help teach. And that's, again, I'm going to keep hitting this point. I know it's like people are going to be blue in the face when they hear this, but it's true. Like, motivating yourself to be the best version of you and learning that life lesson is critical in athletics, critical. And understanding how to prioritize things and how to be accountable is so important for athletics, and it's such a big part of it.
Well, we've been very fortunate with the coaches in Milford.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, certainly they're not doing it for the $1 million salaries that they get.
That is correct.
I mean, when you think about how many hours they put in and the stipend they get, they could work at Dunkin' Donuts and make more money.
Mm-hmm.
But the respect, I mean, when I was coaching soccer, you knew how far you could push time and all. My youngest, Emily, got into cheerleading with Heather. How many times it's getting, in the fall, it's getting dark at night. We're down at Pheno Field, and she would look at us and say, turn on the headlights. So we'd be above and all the car headlights are on so she could squeeze another 40 minutes in.
Mm-hmm.
That,
Because they care.
yeah, I was going to say, that's out of the parents showing respect for what Heather's doing, and the kids really wanting to be there and caring about it.
Yep. And that's what it's about, right? Like, for coaches to have an atmosphere and to have an area in their realm where the kids are going to enjoy being there. They want to be there. They're motivated to be there, right? And it's not just being there, but being present when you're there, right? Being fully engaged when you're there. You know, I say this to teams I've ever coached. We have a 2-hour game. I need you here for 2 hours, grounded. Not everywhere else, not worrying about what you're doing later or what
Focused.
happened. Right here for 2 hours. If you can give me that focus for 2 hours, we're going to be great as a team, right? And also understanding that if someone tells you to be somewhere, hey, we're going to start at 5 o'clock. No, that doesn't mean you're there at 5 o'clock. Early is on time and on time is late, right? And having that understanding that if I'm asking you to be somewhere at 5, you should be here by 4:45, the latest, right?
How hard is it for multi-sport athletes today? Because when we were kids, it was football, basketball, baseball.
Mm-hmm.
Now all of a sudden,
Right.
and I was one of the culprits that when I was coaching soccer, we played 40 weeks a year.
Mm-hmm. It's
But-
tough.
You know,
I think there's an important thing though that I think sometimes gets lost, right? You know, with the MIA, there's a bona fide team member rule, right? Which means that if you are playing on the girls' basketball team, right, or the girls' lacrosse team, or the boys' tennis team, you can't miss your in-season sport for an out-of-season sport. You can't miss
is that right?
You can't miss it. If you do, there's a penalty for that. So this word commitment, again, accountability and commitment goes a long way, right? If you're going to commit to doing something, commit to doing it fully. And it's not saying that you can't do something else, right? But if I'm going to be on the boys lacrosse team, right, and I'm a soccer player, right, and I have a tournament in Florida, but my boys lacrosse team at the high school has a game on a Friday, and you say, well, I'm going to miss the game on Friday because I'm going to the tournament.
That's not
That's
allowed.
not going to work. That's a bona fide team member rule violation. That can't happen. You got to make that commitment. Either you're going to commit to play for the team that you're on from your high school, or you're not, right? And people need to understand that there are, not my rule, even though I would still have the same thing. The MIA has that rule, right? The bona fide team member rule. It's important for parents and
Well, we
kids
got
to understand
nervous that Lexi was only playing soccer.
Mhm.
40 weeks a year, 3 nights a week. So we ventured forth and signed her up for basketball. Biggest disaster we ever ran. She would last about 5 minutes a game and foul out.
You may have to cut that out. I don't think Lexi's going to want to hear that. Lexi, don't listen.
She would foul out in 5 minutes because she loved throwing hip checks in soccer. Somehow the basketball referee didn't appreciate her throwing a hip check and decking her opponents. And she looked and said,
I would never envision
if they
that.
don't want to be hit, why are they jumping in my face? It's like, honey, it's a jump shot. It's allowed. Well, then it should be allowed that I hit him. So that was a failed attempt at diversity.
Hey, you know what? You got to give it a shot, right? Give it a shot. But no, listen. I think as a coach and now as an athletic director, I think it's important for parents and kids to understand. The more sports you're playing, the better you're going to be, right? This mentality of being a one sport athlete, like, I don't think it's a smart move. I don't think it's a smart move. I think you got to play multiple sports, get out there, be on multiple teams, continue to do things that you love, and challenge yourself to be a well-rounded.
Well, I think realistically, if you look at the odds, what is it, 1/100th of 1% of high school athletes are going to make career?
It's incredibly, incredibly thin. The margins are incredibly thin.
So
it's not going to happen.
I like the idea of
Well, not that it's not going to happen, right? It may
no,
happen.
if you're the one person that made it, great. But the 99 or 900 others.
Mm-hmm.
But I like the idea of playing multiple sports. One, for exposure to multiple coaches.
Mm-hmm.
Because just like when you work for a living, you're not going to have one boss your whole life.
And you're also using different muscles in different sports. It's only going to help you in other sports that you play. Hand-eye coordination, leg work, footwork, and anything that you're going to end up doing. Every sport is different, right? There are no two sports that are the same. And that's an important thing for kids to understand too. Get out there, play more sports, challenge yourself.
We're in the middle of planning for a new high school.
Mm-hmm.
Any sage words, any pithy comments you want to add?
Now, do I have a saying to you? Listen, I had a pipe dream a long time ago. Now, you remember the old Franklin High School?
Yes.
You remember the one thing the old Franklin High School had that I would, you want to talk about a pipe dream for Milford?
Fieldhouse?
Bingo. You want to talk about a pipe dream. Now, I think the plans that I have seen look fantastic for a new school. We're due for a new school, right? Like it's needed, and it's needed for our community, right? Yeah, that's my pipe dream.
I've brought it up from the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
and initially the SBA School Building Authority said no.
Yeah.
You can't have it. But now there's a question coming up about the pool,
Mm-hmm.
because we're all in favor of keeping the pool.
Of course.
But there's a way of funding the pool, because nothing that we spend on the pool is reimbursable.
Correct.
But I'm on the committee, and I haven't heard one person talk negatively about keeping the pool.
Well, I mean, that's such an important part of our community, right? Through community use and then, with our athletics, Dave Chaplin does an incredible job of maintaining that, and again, it's not
Chappie
just
is
us.
the pool. I think he's.
Well, correct.
I mean, how many years it's gone by, and there's Chappie all the time.
That's him. He's there every morning. I come in every morning.
But one of the questions that came out is, how do we finance a pool rebuild?
Yeah.
And I'm indifferent to how we finance it,
Mm-hmm.
except what's the best for Milford.
Sure.
Whether we tear down the pool and build a new pool,
Mm-hmm.
or we renovate the pool we have, to me, it's 6 and 1/2 dozen of another. Depends how much. If it's going to cost me $15 million one way and $17 million another,
Right.
you got my vote. But the question's coming up more and more about, if we built the school, and the SBA says you have to build the school and then build the pool as a separate project. Maybe what the town ought to consider is having a ad hoc committee formed
Mm-hmm.
to talk about a pool and a field house all in one.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when you look at,
Does that mean you and I get to chair that one?
oh God, when you look at the numbers being thrown around now, 400 to $500 million, 400 million to $500 million,
Mm-hmm.
adding 20 or 30 million to it is a huge amount of money.
Of course.
But to me, this is a generational opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
If we don't build a field house now, it'll be 50 years before we can consider it again.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd love an ad hoc committee to be put together, if the SBA won't let us do the school school and the pool together. And not just consider the pool, but consider the field house too.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of benefits to it, right? Obviously we don't want to put the taxpayers of Milford in a bad spot at the same time, but I think there's a lot of benefits to the town and in our community.
Well, I went up to Shrewsbury for a cheerleading tournament and walked into their field house. Seemed like a different world.
It is. It is.
And when you're talking about finances, this is going to be silly. The new renovated high school, whatever you call it, it's going to cost, say, $400 million. We'll pay 50% of it.
Mhm.
$200 million. I don't know that there's that much of a difference between 200 and 230.
I'm not the finance guy with this one. I defer to you when it comes to this stuff. But
But
again,
it's not finances, because financially I'd say do away with the pool, do away with the football stadium, do away with the baseball stadiums, and live without anything. That's financially looking at it.
okay, I'll argue with you on those.
No, you can't, because the numbers are there. But you wouldn't be a town.
Well, that's part of it, right? Like that's the
You know, I mean, when you sit there and say, why did we build the football stadium?
Mhm.
Because it's part of being Milford. Why did we build the softball? Because it's part of being Milford. You know, why did Woodland have an extra turf field? It's part of being Milford. In the pool, there's a sense of pride that all the other towns envy Milford for having the pool the way Chappie keeps it.
Mhm. And there's a lot of towns and communities that come and use it too. Lots and lots and lots.
So to me, personally, not financially, because financially it's like we had the whole discussion about Pheno Field Pool.
Mhm.
Mark Shane and I used to argue on the FinCom all the time, because logically he had the right argument. Close Pheno Field, take over Casey, save money. I kept saying, but it's not Milford.
Mhm.
Pheno Field is Milford.
Mhm.
There's a reason we squeeze our budgets every year. I mean, this year the school committee came to us with a 2.5% increase because they knew how hard the state finances are.
Mhm.
You squeeze there so that you can do certain things like fireworks in Milford. It's part of being a town. I'd love to see a field house. And no, I can't justify it financially.
Mhm.
But that red hawk you're wearing says something that it's Milford.
Correct. I agree with you.
So there's a few of us with the same pipe dream that you have.
There it is. Oh, I'm happy to hear that.
Any last words for the community?
No, I'm excited. I'm beyond honored to have this opportunity. I think if you don't know me, you'll understand. Like I'm a hard worker, and I'm going to do everything I can to help our kids be as successful as possible. And if we can work as a community to support our kids, and that's what our number one thing has got to be, to continue to support our kids and our community, we're going to be okay.
Well, the one thing I can say is after being on the FinCom for decades and going to town meetings every year, town meeting has never turned down what our kids need. Even when we're hurting,
Mhm.
town meeting comes up with the right answer. So let's hope it continues.
Sounds like a plan.
To our 6 loyal viewers, thank you for joining us. It's the beginning of a new era in sports in Milford. And come fall, we'll have you back,
Sounds great.
talk about how the teams are actually doing.
Sounds great.
So, good night, God bless, and may tomorrow be a better day than today.